There are moments in life when the world looks at a person and thinks they know the whole story. Moments when people see the success, the headlines, the fame, the wealth, and they forget the storms that shape the person standing in the light. Elon Musk is one of those people the world thinks it understands. A billionaire, a genius, a disruptor, a man who builds rockets, electric cars, and impossible dreams. But behind the brilliance was a boy who never fit in. A teenager who walked alone. A young man doubted, dismissed, and underestimated at every turn. A human being shaped by pain more than talent, by heartbreak more than strategy, by failure more than success. This isn't the story of a billionaire. This is the story of a boy trapped inside his own silence. A young immigrant fighting for a place in a world that didn't want him. A man who refused to surrender even when everything around him collapsed. This is the story of how Elon Musk rose against all odds, and how one person's relentless belief in possibility changed the future of humanity forever. Elon Musk was born on June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa, at a time when the country was divided, turbulent, and deeply conflicted. From the moment he entered the world, he carried a different energy, calm, observant, distant. While other kids played, Elon stared. While others fought, Elon imagined. And while others focused on the world around them, Elon focused on worlds that didn't even exist yet. He grew up in a home that was intellectually sharp but emotionally fractured. His father, Elon Musk, was an engineer with an extraordinary mind but a complicated personality, brilliant, strict, emotionally unpredictable. His mother, May Musk, was a model and dietitian who worked tirelessly to support her children. Elon grew up watching her hustle, sacrifice, and push through life with quiet strength. She became his earliest model for resilience. But home wasn't a sanctuary, not for Elon. He would retreat into books out of necessity, not luxury. He read everything he could find: science, fantasy, philosophy. And when books weren't enough, he escaped into the worlds he imagined. At 10 years old, he discovered computers, and something inside him clicked. Within days, he wasn't just using a computer, he was bending it to his will. At just 12, he created a small video game called Blastar and sold it to a magazine. Most kids brag about winning a school race. Elon's victory was building something from nothing. But while his mind thrived, his childhood didn't. School was brutal. He was bullied relentlessly, not the kind of teasing children eventually forget, but the kind that leaves emotional scars that last a lifetime. He was smaller than most kids, quieter, and far more introverted. His curiosity made him different, and different made him a target. There was a day, one he rarely talks about, when a group of boys beat him so badly he was hospitalized. They threw him down a flight of stairs. They kicked him until he couldn't breathe. They left him unconscious. When he woke up, his face was swollen beyond recognition. His nose broken, his confidence shattered. But there was something inside him they couldn't break, something unexplainable, something almost unnatural, a refusal to be defined by pain. The emotional turmoil in his home life only intensified that inner fire. His parents divorced when he was 9. The family split left cracks that never fully healed, and soon after, Elon made a decision that would haunt him for years. He moved in with his father. The relationship was complicated in ways Elon rarely explains publicly. He has described his father as having a terrible influence. There were emotional wounds that went deeper than childhood bullying, wounds that carved pieces out of him in ways only he truly understands. And yet, even while living inside an emotional storm, young Elon never lost his sense of possibility. He would spend nights reading science fiction, imagining worlds where humans lived on Mars, where cars ran without gasoline, where society overcame its limits through sheer force of innovation. To many people, those dreams would sound impossible. But to Elon, impossibility was simply a challenge waiting for a solution. Still, he knew one thing with absolute clarity: he had to leave South Africa, not because he hated the country, not because he wanted wealth, but because he wanted freedom, the freedom to think, build, and dream without restraint. He believed the United States was the center of innovation. the place where people with ideas, even crazy ones, could shape the world. But escaping South Africa wasn't easy. Mandatory military service loomed over his future. And the very thought of being forced to serve in a system he fundamentally disagreed with hardened his resolve even more. At 17, with almost no money, no connections, and no safety net, Elon made one of the most important decisions of his life. He applied for a Canadian passport through his mother's side of the family. And when it arrived, he boarded a plane and flew across the world alone. A teenager stepping into a future filled with uncertainty, fear, and nothing but hope. He arrived in Canada with barely enough money to survive. He stayed on couches, worked odd jobs, cutting logs, cleaning boilers, anything that paid. He survived winter with thin jackets because he couldn't afford better ones. He lived meal to meal, and yet for the first time in his life he felt free. Free to dream, free to build, free to pursue the version of himself the world never allowed him to become. He attended Queen's University and later transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, studying economics and physics. He slept on the floor of his rented room. He showered at the gym. He hosted house parties to earn rent money. But none of that mattered because he finally felt like he was moving toward the life he envisioned. He graduated with massive ideas and massive student debt. But the world was changing fast. The internet was emerging. The future was forming, and Elon could see opportunities no one else could. He didn't want a job. He didn't want a safe path. He wanted to build. He wanted to solve problems so big that they frightened people. And that desire, that burning desire, was about to collide with a future that would push him into battles he could never have imagined. Elon stepped into adulthood with brilliant ideas, but no money, no mentorship, and no established support system. He was a foreigner in America, an outsider, someone who didn't speak like the others, didn't think like the others, didn't blend in. But where others saw obstacles, Elon saw starting points. He co-founded Zip2, his first internet company, using borrowed computers and late-night coding sessions that lasted until sunrise. He slept in the office, showered at the YMCA, and lived off cheap meals to keep the company alive. Investors doubted him. Clients ignored him. His own business partners often believed he lacked the experience to lead. Every meeting, every pitch, every negotiation felt like climbing uphill through skepticism. And yet, giving up was never an option for him. Elon Musk's early struggle with Zip2 wasn't just about money. It was about identity. He was trying to convince the world that he was capable, that a quiet, awkward immigrant in his 20s could build something meaningful in a tech landscape dominated by older, more experienced businessmen. He had no fancy connections, no Wall Street backing, no Silicon Valley mentor guiding him. All he had was an idea to take business directories and put them online, creating a digital version of the Yellow Pages. It sounds simple now, but in the mid-90s it was revolutionary. Most people didn't even understand the internet. They didn't see it as an opportunity. They saw it as a toy, a fad, a temporary trend. When Elon went door to door to pitch businesses, he was rejected over and over. Executives laughed at him. Secretaries refused to let him into offices. Decision-makers dismissed him as inexperienced, too young, or simply delusional. But Elon didn't break. Instead, he coded harder, dreamed bigger, pushed further. He slept under his desk at night because he didn't have an apartment. He showered at the gym. He lived on the cheapest food he could find. His brother, Kimball, slept on the office couch. Together, they took turns staying awake during networking outages because Zip2's servers needed someone to manually reboot them. There were nights when Elon's eyes burned from exhaustion. His fingers ached from typing. His thoughts blurred into a haze of sleep deprivation. But he refused to stop. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't just dreaming about the future, he was building it. Still, the more the company grew, the more new problems stood in his way. Investors began treating Elon like a replaceable founder, the kind you use to build the early product but push aside once the company starts getting traction. They doubted his leadership. They doubted his management. They doubted his ability to scale a business. Despite working endless hours and sacrificing everything, Elon was removed as CEO of his own company. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine building something from nothing and then being told you're not qualified to run it. It was a wound that cut deeper than rejection. It was humiliation. It was betrayal. It was the world telling him, once again, you don't belong here. But Elon swallowed his pride and stayed. Because even if he was CEO, he wasn't done shaping the company's destiny. And eventually, Zip2 sold for $307 million. Elon's portion was around $22 million after taxes. For most people, that would be enough for comfort, enough for retirement, enough for a quiet life. But Elon wasn't built for quiet. He wasn't built for comfort. He wasn't built to sit on the sidelines while the world stagnated. Zip2 wasn't the end, it was the beginning, a stepping stone, a test, a challenge that shaped his spirit instead of breaking it. But success didn't erase the struggles that followed. If anything, they intensified. Elon took nearly every dollar he earned and immediately poured it into a new idea, an online financial service he called XCOM. This wasn't a simple banking website. It was a radical concept. A fully digital financial system at a time when people still trusted physical banks more than anything else. Critics said it was reckless. Bankers called it unrealistic. Competitors mocked it. But Elon moved forward anyway. He didn't chase easy victories. He chased the future. XCOM was chaotic, unstable, and terrifyingly ambitious. Elon threw himself into it the same way he threw himself into Zip2 completely. He lived in the office again. He worked impossible hours again. And as the company grew, the pressure mounted. Technology broke. Partnerships failed. Employees argued. Investors panicked. And once again, Elon found himself in the middle of a storm. But just like Zip2, XCOM evolved into something bigger, a merger with a rival startup called Confinity, creating what we now know as PayPal. Once again, Elon was pushed out of the CEO role while on a trip. Once again, the company he built slipped out of his hands. Once again, he had to stand by as others took control of his vision. It hurt, deeply, but life wasn't done testing him. Shortly after, PayPal sold to eBay for $1. $5 billion, and Elon walked away with roughly $180 million. But he didn't celebrate. He didn't relax. He didn't buy mansions and retire early. Instead, he risked everything again. He put $100 million into SpaceX. He put $70 million into Tesla. He put $10 million into SolarCity. Every penny he had gone into ideas people called insane. His friends staged interventions. His investors begged him to stop. Analysts called him foolish, arrogant, reckless. But Elon wasn't chasing money. He was chasing purpose, a purpose bigger than himself, bigger than profit, bigger than fear. He wanted to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. He wanted to push humanity towards space. He wanted to ensure the survival of our species. But dreams of that size come with a cost. A cost most people can't imagine. A cost that nearly destroyed him. Because the real struggle, the deepest struggle, was still ahead. If the early years were difficult, the next chapter of Elon Musk's life was devastating. Around 2007-2008, his world collapsed on all sides, financially, emotionally, mentally. SpaceX had launched its first rocket, Falcon 1, and it failed. The second launch failed. The third launch failed. 3 launches, 3 explosions, 3 heartbreaks. Each rocket cost millions Elon didn't really have any more. Millions he had poured into a dream people already doubted. With each failure, the world laughed louder. Critics mocked him on television. Commentators called him irresponsible. Some said he was destroying his reputation on a fantasy that would never come true. Investors pulled away. Friends distanced themselves. The media labeled him the real-life Tony Stark, but not with admiration, with sarcasm. Tesla wasn't doing any better. The company was bleeding money. Production delays piled up. Suppliers backed out. Executives quit. Tesla was weeks away from bankruptcy. SpaceX was weeks away from collapse. Elon Musk was 1 month away from losing everything. At the same time, his personal life was falling apart. His marriage was breaking. His health was deteriorating. His stress reached levels the human body isn't built to handle. There were nights he slept on the factory floor because he didn't have time to drive home. There were nights he broke down from pure exhaustion. There were nights he wondered if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. It was rock bottom, the place where dreams go to die. And yet, it's where Elon found a strength he didn't know he had. Elon Musk had reached a point most people never see. A point where everything collapses at once. Your business, your finances, your family, your reputation, your health. A point where the world stops believing in you and you start questioning if you should believe in yourself. He had put every dollar of his PayPal fortune into Tesla, SpaceX, and Solar City. Not some of it, not half of it. Every single penny. He was borrowing money just to pay rent. A man once worth hundreds of millions, now asking friends for loans simply to survive another month. The pressure became unbearable. People didn't just think he was wrong, they thought he was delusional. Investors mocked him behind closed doors. Business journalists predicted his downfall with almost joyful confidence. Online forums were filled with comments saying he was finished. And with every new headline, every new criticism, every new doubt, the weight on his shoulders grew heavier. There were moments he would sit alone in his car after leaving the factory, hands on the steering wheel, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Because for a few seconds, he didn't know if he could keep going. He felt the entire future collapsing in slow motion. Not just his future, but the future of the ideas he believed could transform humanity. 3 failed rocket launches, 3 chances gone, millions burned, reputation shattered. SpaceX had enough money left for one final attempt, one more rocket. If that rocket failed, it was over. SpaceX would die, everything he believed in would die with it. And Tesla was barely breathing. Cars weren't being produced fast enough. There were endless technical issues. Customers were frustrated. The company was running out of cash. Every morning Elon woke up, he didn't know if that day would be Tesla's last. He would walk into the factory, look at the tired faces of his workers, and shoulder the unspoken truth. They were all counting on him. Every engineer, every designer, every assembly worker. Every customer who put their life savings down for a car that didn't even exist yet. They all believed in a future that depended on Elon not giving up. But the darkest moment wasn't financial. It wasn't operational. It wasn't technical. It was personal. His marriage was falling apart. His emotions were unraveling. His mind was stretched beyond human limits. He had to split his time between SpaceX in California and Tesla in Silicon Valley, constantly jumping between crises. A rocket problem in the morning, a factory crisis in the afternoon, a financial disaster at night. No breaks, no relief, no peace. There were nights he cried alone from exhaustion, not because he was weak, but because he was human. In interviews during that time, you can hear the pain in his voice. The shaking, the fatigue, the fear masked behind forced optimism. He was walking through fire barefoot, carrying dreams far bigger than his own life, dreams the world didn't appreciate until much later. People forget that heroes are not made from triumphs. Heroes are made from the moments they should have fallen but didn't. And for Elon Musk, that moment came in 2008, December. Cold, uncertain, a month that looked like the end. But destiny had other plans. On September 28, 2008, SpaceX prepared to launch its 4th rocket, Falcon 1. Everyone inside the company knew the truth. If this rocket fails, SpaceX is dead. Elon knew it too. He stood there, exhausted, broke, emotionally drained, but still refusing to surrender. He had endured humiliation, doubt, betrayal, heartbreak, 3 catastrophic rocket explosions, and the near bankruptcy of Tesla. And now everything came down to this moment. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Elon stood completely still. This wasn't just a rocket. This was the sum of his failures, his sacrifices, his sleepless nights. This was the last breath of a dream on life support. 5, 4, 3 millions of dollars, years of work, hundreds of people depending on one outcome. 2, 1, ignition. The rocket lifted off, slowly, shakily, but upward. The world watched. Oxygen tanks ignited. The engines roared like thunder over the Pacific. For the first time, Falcon 1 didn't explode, it didn't veer off course, it didn't fail, it soared higher, 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 and then history. Falcon 1 reached orbit. SpaceX became the first privately funded company in the world to put a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. The impossible became possible. Elon Musk broke down crying, tears of exhaustion, relief, and overwhelming gratitude. SpaceX didn't just survive, it was reborn. NASA took notice, and within months, SpaceX received a $16 billion contract. A billion, with a B, from near bankruptcy to a government contract that saved the company overnight. It was the turning point, the miracle moment every great story needs. A moment written in sweat, blood, and relentless belief. But Elon didn't celebrate, he didn't slow down, he didn't rest, because Tesla still needed saving. With SpaceX temporarily secure, Elon shifted every ounce of energy back to Tesla, a company still drowning. It was December 2008, the same month as the NASA contract, and Tesla was hours away from running out of money. Not weeks, not days, hours. A funding deal was on the table, but negotiations were falling apart. Investors argued, board members hesitated. The financial crisis made everyone terrified of risk. But Elon didn't have the luxury of fear. He needed the deal to close, not for profit, but for survival. He spent days negotiating without sleep. Back-to-back calls, emails, conferences, desperation hiding behind determination. On the very last day of 2008, with the clock ticking toward midnight, the deal finally closed. Tesla lived, and Elon Musk collapsed into a chair, finally letting the weight fall off his shoulders. 2008 tried to kill him. It tried to destroy him. It tried to end everything he stood for. But he survived. He endured. He rose. And with that rise came a chapter that would reshape industries, inspire generations, and redefine what a human being can achieve when they refuse to stop. Saving Tesla financially was one thing, saving it technically was another. People mocked the Roadster. They said electric cars were toys, slow, unreliable, and impractical. But Elon believed otherwise. And he pushed his teams harder than ever before. Not out of cruelty, but out of urgency. Because he knew the world needed electric cars long before the world understood why. And piece by piece, problem by problem, breakthrough by breakthrough, Tesla began to rise. The Roadster hit the streets and shocked the world. It was fast. It was stylish. It shattered every stereotype of electric cars. Then came the Model S, a car so far ahead of its time that it changed the automotive industry permanently. Reviewers called it the best car ever made, not the best electric car. The best car, period. Tesla wasn't just surviving anymore. It was disrupting. And Elon Musk, a man who had once begged friends for rent money, was now building an empire powered by purpose, fueled by resilience, and shaped by the belief that the future could be better. The rise of Elon Musk wasn't a straight climb upward. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't glamorous. It was a relentless battle, one where every victory came with a new challenge, every step forward came with heavier expectations, and every achievement only raised the bar higher. The world began to recognize Tesla, but recognition didn't mean approval. Not yet. Many people still believed electric cars would fail. Some predicted Tesla would collapse just like the dozens of EV companies before it. Others said Elon Musk was reckless, that he didn't know how to run a car company, that he was chasing a fantasy that would eventually bankrupt him. But Elon wasn't listening. He was building with a level of urgency the world had never seen. He believed humanity didn't have decades to wait. Climate change, dependence on fossil fuels, and the decline of environmental stability, these weren't distant problems. They were now immediate, dangerous. Tesla wasn't a luxury brand to him, it was a mission, and missions don't wait for permission. Tesla begins to rise. The success of the Model S changed everything. People who tested it couldn't believe what they were experiencing. Instant acceleration, silence, smoothness, range that destroyed every stereotype. A giant touchscreen replacing buttons, software updates that improved the car from a distance. things the auto industry said were impossible. But Tesla did them anyway. Awards started pouring in. Consumer Reports gave the Model S one of the highest scores ever recorded. Car reviewers compared it to technological wizardry. Every major automaker felt a sudden, uncomfortable shift, a quiet awareness that Tesla wasn't just competing, it was leading. And Elon Musk was no longer the outsider the industry laughed at. He had become the force the industry feared. Growing too fast and paying the price, but rapid growth is never painless. Tesla factories struggled to meet demand. Battery production was becoming a bottleneck. Suppliers were overwhelmed, costs skyrocketed. Short sellers attacked the stock constantly, spreading rumors, predicting doom, almost begging for Tesla to fail. Every time Tesla stumbled, even slightly, the negativity exploded. Elon Musk is finished. Tesla is a bubble. The company will be bankrupt in 6 months. And while critics shouted from the outside, on the inside things were far more intense. Elon was pushing himself to extremes again. 17-hour days, sleeping at the factory. Barely seeing his children, barely eating, barely living. He was in production hell, a phrase he used so often it became legendary. To Elon, every delay wasn't just a delay. It was a failure, a threat to the mission, a risk to the future of sustainable energy. He took everything personally because everything felt personal. But through exhaustion and chaos, Tesla pushed forward. Model X with its engineering complexity. Model 3, the affordable EV that would change everything. Supercharger networks, built when no one believed they were necessary. Gigafactories, enormous, futuristic facilities that shocked the entire manufacturing world. Each milestone was a battle. Each achievement came with sleepless nights. Each breakthrough felt like climbing a mountain barefoot, but the climb didn't stop. Tesla wasn't just building cars, it was building momentum. And momentum is unstoppable. SpaceX. The impossible journey continues while Tesla was exploding into the mainstream. SpaceX was quietly rewriting history. After the Falcon 1 victory, Elon Musk didn't slow down, he accelerated. Falcon 9 became the next frontier. A rocket powerful enough to carry payloads into orbit, but designed with a concept the world called madness: reusability. The aerospace industry had always accepted that rockets were single-use. Decades of tradition, billions of dollars wasted each launch, an unquestioned system, but Elon Musk didn't care about tradition. He cared about logic. If rockets can't be reused, he said, space travel will always be too expensive to take humanity anywhere meaningful. So SpaceX tried. They built landing legs, guidance systems, algorithms, thrusters. And when Falcon 9 attempted its first landing at sea, the world watched with giddy anticipation. The rocket approached, tilted, lost balance, and exploded. The second attempt exploded. The third attempt exploded. People laughed, memes spread, news anchors mocked the idea. Reusable rockets? Ridiculous. SpaceX is burning money. Elon Musk has lost it. But Elon kept going. He didn't flinch. Failure wasn't a stop sign, it was data. Every explosion taught SpaceX something new. Every failure was another step toward success. Every attempt brought the impossible closer. Then on December 21, 2015, Falcon 9 descended from the heavens like something out of a science fiction movie. The rocket slowed, stabilized, straightened. And with perfect precision, Falcon 9 landed on its feet on solid ground. People screamed. Engineers cried. The world gasped. SpaceX had just changed space travel forever, and that was only the beginning. Reusable boosters became routine. Launch costs plummeted. NASA embraced the partnership. SpaceX began delivering cargo and later astronauts to the International Space Station. A private company founded by a man once dismissed as a joke was now leading the future of space exploration. But Elon wasn't satisfied yet, not even close, because in the back of his mind the mission was always Mars. And Mars required something bigger, something far more ambitious: Starship. A fully reusable rocket larger than anything humans had ever built. A spacecraft capable of carrying humans to the moon, to Mars, and beyond. People said it was impossible. Too big, too heavy, too complex, too costly. But Elon Musk has never been interested in possible. He's interested in the future, and the future requires courage. SOLARCITY, powering the world while rockets soared into the sky and Tesla cars sped across highways. Another battle was unfolding, Solar City, a company created to fight a problem few people cared about at the time: the global need for clean, renewable energy. Solar energy was expensive, inefficient, unpopular, but Elon saw possibility. He didn't want to build solar for profit. He wanted to build it for survival, the planet's survival. Solar City installed solar panels for homes and businesses, making clean energy accessible before anyone else dared. But the real breakthrough was the Tesla Energy merger. Powerwall, PowerPack, Megapack. Clean energy storage became the missing piece that connected solar power to a sustainable future. People forget this today, but Tesla Energy is one of the company's most important creations, a foundation that will power entire cities someday. Elon wasn't just electrifying cars, he was electrifying the world. A global force, the expansion continues. By the late 2010s, Tesla and SpaceX were no longer startups. They were forces of nature. Tesla built factories in Nevada, New York, China, Germany, and Texas, each one larger than the last, gigafactories that redefined manufacturing. SpaceX created the most advanced launch system in the world. Starlink satellites began covering the skies, offering internet to the most remote places on Earth. Tesla became the world's most valuable car company. SpaceX became the world's most trusted launch provider. And Elon Musk, the boy who once hid in books to escape the world's cruelty, became the face of innovation, the face of disruption, the face of risk, the face of possibility. But success didn't make him comfortable. It made him hungrier, because the mission wasn't finished, not even close. He still had energy to clean, cities to power, cars. Today, Elon Musk stands at the center of one of the most transformative eras in human history. Not because of wealth, not because of fame, but because of the enormous, almost impossible responsibility he has chosen to carry. The world looks at his achievements, but it rarely understands the scale of what they represent. Tesla is no longer just an electric car company. It is a global movement, a shift in human behavior, a push toward sustainable energy and a future where transportation is cleaner, faster, quieter, and entirely reimagined. Factories the size of small cities now operate under Tesla's roof. Gigafactories carve into landscapes around the world. Monuments of steel and glass that pulse with energy day and night. The Model S rewrote the rules. The Model 3 became the world's best-selling electric vehicle. The Model Y joined it. Cybertruck shattered traditional design standards, and the Semi is changing freight transportation. Tesla isn't just building cars. It's building an ecosystem, a chain of innovation that touches batteries, energy storage, solar production, charging infrastructure, AI, robotics, and software. But that's only one piece of the empire. SpaceX, once a struggling startup on the brink of collapse, now launches rockets more frequently than any government agency on the planet. Its reusable boosters land with such precision that people watch them like live sports events. Falcon Heavy, with its thunderous engines and overwhelming power, became the most powerful operational rocket in the world. But SpaceX didn't stop there. Starship emerged, a stainless steel giant towering above the Texas coast. A ship designed not for the skies, but for the stars. SpaceX plans to turn humanity into a multiplanetary species, a concept that once lived only in science fiction novels, now standing on launch pads in real life. And then there is Starlink, tens of thousands of satellites orbiting Earth, forming a web of connectivity that reaches the most remote places humans have ever lived. Starlink is powering villages without infrastructure, supporting ships in the middle of oceans, keeping communication alive in war zones, helping students learn where schools once had no internet. It's more than a business, it's a lifeline. Neuralink is attempting to restore lost mobility, heal neurological disorders, and one day connect the human brain directly to digital systems. The Boring Company is reinventing tunnels to reduce traffic and reimagine transportation beneath our cities. Even X, formerly Twitter, a platform Elon took over amid controversy and criticism, is being reshaped into something entirely new. A global digital town square, a place for information, communication, and open discussion. Every company he leads has a different mission, but they share a common thread. They exist to push humanity forward, and yet standing at the peak of innovation. Elon Musk is still the same man who slept on floors, who coded through the night, who was bullied as a child, who was doubted at every step, who lost everything and kept going anyway. His empire today is massive, bigger than any one person should be able to build. But it didn't come from luck. It came from struggle, from resilience, from an unshakable belief that the future can be better if someone is willing to build it. When people talk about Elon Musk, they often focus on the rockets, the cars, the billions, the controversies, the headlines, but his legacy is not the machinery he built. It's not the wealth he accumulated. It's not the attention he receives. His true legacy is something deeper, something invisible, something far more powerful. It is the permission he gives others to dream big. Because Elon's life says one thing clearly: you don't have to be born into greatness to achieve it. He wasn't the smartest kid in school. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the most popular. He wasn't handed a perfect family, a perfect childhood, or a perfect life. He didn't start with power or status or connections or wealth. He started with imagination, with curiosity, with a desire to build things that didn't exist yet, and more importantly, he started with pain because it was pain that sharpened his resolve, pain that shaped his ambition, pain that fueled his hunger. Elon's story teaches us that greatness is not born from comfort. It is forged in discomfort, shaped in suffering, crafted in the fires of adversity. His legacy is the reminder that failure is part of the journey, not the end of it, not a sign to quit, not a verdict on your worth. Elon failed more publicly than most people ever will. He lost more money than most people will ever see. He endured more criticism than most humans could psychologically survive. But he kept going. He kept pursuing ideas the world laughed at. He kept pushing boundaries the world said were unbreakable. He kept dreaming dreams, too large for most people to even comprehend. And that is the core lesson of his life. If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Elon Musk teaches us that being misunderstood is okay. Being doubted is normal. Being ridiculed is part of the price for trying to build something extraordinary. Another lesson from his journey is this: purpose is stronger than fear. Elon never pursued comfort, he pursued mission. He didn't chase wealth, he chased impact. Because when you are driven by purpose, fear loses its power. Purpose turns exhaustion into fuel. Purpose turns obstacles into challenges. Purpose turns failures into lessons. And his entire life is a testament to that truth. His legacy also teaches us something about time. Your life's work should outlive you. Elon is building companies that will continue long after he is gone. Not because he wants credit, but because he wants humanity to flourish. He wants a world where energy is renewable, transportation is sustainable, the planet is cleaner, and humans can live beyond Earth. He wants a future where the next generation doesn't inherit our problems, but inherits solutions. His journey shows us that you don't need to follow the path everyone else takes. You can carve your own path, design your own future, build your own destiny, because history is not written by those who follow. It is written by those who lead. And leadership, true leadership, requires courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to be alone, long before the world decides to join you. Elon Musk's legacy cannot be captured in numbers, or titles, or valuations, or the size of his companies. It lives in the mindset he represents, a mindset built on refusal, a refusal to quit, a refusal to stay quiet, a refusal to accept the world as it is. Because beneath every invention he creates, beneath every rocket that launches, beneath every vehicle that rolls off an assembly line, there is a message. We can do better. This message is not just for engineers, or entrepreneurs, or scientists. It is for anyone who has ever felt small, anyone who has ever been told you can't, anyone who has ever carried dreams too heavy for ordinary belief. His life whispers to all of them, try anyway. It reminds us that no one is obligated to understand your vision. People don't have to see what you see. They don't have to feel what you feel. They don't have to believe what you believe, because the vision was given to you. Not to them. Your dream is your responsibility. Your calling is your burden. And your gift. Elon's journey also teaches us that loneliness is part of greatness. People who think differently often walk alone. People who innovate often stand apart. People who push boundaries rarely find comfort in the crowd. But being alone doesn't mean being wrong. In fact, sometimes it means you are ahead. His life is a reminder that all progress comes from outsiders, from the people society misunderstands. The dreamers, the rebels, the visionaries, the ones who don't fit in. He proves that success doesn't require approval. It requires courage. Courage to start. Courage to continue. Courage to try again after the world tells you not to. Elon also teaches us something about timing. There is no right time to chase a dream. There is only now. When he came to America, he had nothing, no money, no support, no roadmap, just a belief that he could build something meaningful. When he invested everything into Tesla and SpaceX, people called him reckless. They said it wasn't the right time. They said he should wait. They said he should secure himself before risking everything. But Elon didn't wait. He moved. He built, he risked, he pushed. Because he knew the truth, waiting kills more dreams than failure ever will. His journey teaches us that sacrifice is unavoidable. You can't build extraordinary things on ordinary effort. You can't expect world-changing results. With comfort-seeking habits, you cannot create a new future. While clinging to the safety of the present, Elon sacrificed sleep, relationships, peace, comfort, security, for ideas that would help generations he would never meet. And that is the final lesson. Your purpose must outlive you. If your dream dies the moment you stop working, it wasn't a mission, it was a hobby. Elon is building things that will impact children not yet born, cities not yet built, planets not yet explored, problems not yet discovered, civilizations not yet imagined. He's not building companies, he's building chapters in humanity's story. And whether people love him, hate him, praise him, or criticize him, no one can deny one truth: he changed the world. Because he refused to accept its limits. And that, more than anything, is his legacy. Now, as this story comes to a close, there is one more message, not from Elon Musk, but from his journey itself, a message for anyone listening, who is tired of being doubted, tired of being underestimated, tired of carrying dreams no one else believes in. Listen closely. You are allowed to start small. You are allowed to begin afraid. You are allowed to not have all the answers. But you are not allowed to quit, not if something in your soul is telling you to keep going. Greatness is not born from talent. It is born from endurance. You don't need permission to become the person you were meant to be. You don't need approval to chase the life inside your imagination. Let the world laugh. Let them doubt. Let them underestimate you. They are not your judges. They are not your destiny. They are background noise. What matters is the fire inside you, the one that refuses to die. No matter how many times life suffocates it, you will fail. You will doubt, you will cry, you will break, you will question everything. But if you rise again, even once, you are already unstoppable. Remember this: every dream worth chasing comes with a price. Every purpose worth living for demands sacrifice. Every destiny worth fulfilling requires a version of you you have not yet become. So become that person. Become the one who keeps going. Become the one who refuses to give up. Become the one who builds what others only talk about. Become the one who rises against all odds, because somewhere out there, right now, a younger version of you is hoping you won't quit. Don't let that person down. Stand up, dream bigger. Move forward and build the future. Only you can imagine. This is how Elon Musk rose against all odds, and this is how you will rise too.